guys, I'm Devin Harrington, the average Gen Xer, and welcome back to my channel. If this is the first time you're here, thank you so much for coming to hang out with me. I would sure appreciate it if you would do all those YouTube-y type things, like, subscribe, leave a comment. It is greatly appreciated. So on this channel, I cover a couple of different topics. One of them is I like to make posts about different tips and tricks to make self-help, self-development, self-improvement, personal growth, tips for making that easier. Or as the kids call it these days, life hacks. So today I wanted to tell you about probably my all-time absolute favorite thing that I have ever learned in an acting class, but it's not just for actors. It is for basically anybody. It pertains to pretty much the entire human race. So you don't have to be an actor. I learned this from the mighty Van Brooks, who is a longtime Austin-based acting coach, and he is an actor himself, and I have taken many, many classes with him over the years. And this particular thing I learned, I think it was like in an on-camera class, and it's one of those things that is so simple that it sounds stupid, but it's actually really profound. And so I was in Van's class at one point, and it was something he said towards the end of the class, almost as like a final, offhanded thought that came to him in that moment. And I don't know why, but it really, really stuck with me. And it's something that you can use in any field, not just acting. Like I said, it works for everybody anytime they use it. And really, it's so simple, you're going to think it's ridiculous. But like I said, most really profound things are also very simple. So here's the deal. I'm in Van's on-camera class one time. This was a number of years ago, probably 10 years ago. And he's talking about how you should behave on a film set. And most film sets are pretty crowded places. You've got the actors, you've got the crew. It takes an army to make even the lowest budget production. And Van says, whenever you're in a group of people on a set and the director or anyone in charge, it could be the production assistant who is in charge of wrangling extras, if, that's who you are on a film set, whatever. If anyone in charge says anything to the group, and it could be anything, like everybody got that, or good morning, or literally anything, always be the one who answers out loud. It sounds stupid, right? But we have all been in this situation, whether it's in a yoga class or any kind of class, in a work meeting, in just a bunch of people in a waiting room or waiting in line somewhere. We've all been in that situation where someone says something addressing the group and everybody just sits there in silence, and it's awkward. And that's human nature, right? I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist, disclaimer. But I have thought about this a lot because I am fascinated by human nature. And so I started noticing that after he said this, and it really seems to be, wherever you are in the world, it seems to be human nature that if you're in a group and somebody addresses the group, nobody will say anything. Nobody wants to be the one that answers out loud because we're all in our head thinking, are we supposed to answer out loud? Well, I don't want to be the one that says something because everyone's going to turn around and look at me, blah, blah, blah. Personally, I just think it's like our survival, the old part of the brain, the survival part of the brain telling you, stay with the group, stay quiet. Don't be the one that sticks out. Don't stick your head out because you'll get it bitten off, something primal like that. But in today's world, it's still the same. And I was in a yoga class the other day, and the teacher walked in. There's probably 20 people in the class, and she comes in and says, "Hey, everybody." And nobody says anything. And it's just a yoga class. Like, who cares, right? But anyway, so Van tells us, if you're on a set and someone addresses the group, be the one who answers out loud. And then in the class at that moment, he said, "Okay, everybody understand that?" And nobody said anything. And it took us a second to realize, oh, yes, we got it. Anyway, so not too long after Van Brooks told me this in a class, as I've said before on this channel, I do some work as an actor or actress. I like the word actress. I don't have a problem with being called an actress as opposed to actor, whatever. And I was cast on season 3, episode 1 of The Leftovers, which was a show that I think was on HBO, starring Justin Theroux and Carrie Coon, among other people. And the episode I was cast in is called The Book of Kevin. And I was cast as Justin plays a sheriff or a cop of some kind on the show. And I was cast as one of his cops. It was just a small, very, very small role. But I had to go and audition to say this one line on camera. And the character's name was Hitch. So the casting director chose to cast a woman, but it could have been either way. So I was cast in this role, which was actually a really cool little scene with Justin Theroux. I was supposed to bring him a karaoke machine, and then I plug it in and I hand in the mic and I say, "You're on." And that was my one line. And that was it. But for an actor, that would be a nice piece of tape for your reel, your demo reel with the star of the show. Spoiler alert, the scene got cut. And that's showbiz, baby. That's just how it goes. However, I still get the check every time the episode airs anywhere because, thank you, Screen Actors Guild, that's showbiz too. Anyway, so the reason I bring this up is that I show up to the set that morning, and the scene that I'm in is basically Justin's character, the sheriff, telling all of his cops, all his squad members, what's going on. And there were probably about, 30 or 40 actors there dressed as cops, and all of them were extras, meaning they didn't have any lines, except for me and one other guy who had a couple of lines as well. And I say that because if you have lines on a set, number one, you get mic'd and you have a microphone on. And that, a film set of any budget is like a little kingdom. You've got the director and the stars at the top, and then all the way at the bottom are the background actors or the extras, or as they call them in the business, the props that eat. So once you get that microphone on you and you've got one line to say, it's a whole different world, because now you're getting a different pay rate. Now you're getting residuals. It's a mark of accomplishment for an actor. Anyway, so I get there. There's like 30 extras, and we're all in this little, it was shot in Lockhart, Texas, in an old grocery store that they had turned into a police precinct. And there was an area that was kind of, it's hard to describe, but it had kind of waist high walls with little swivel doors on different sides that you could go in and out of. And so all the cops are sitting there ready to be briefed by Justin's character. And so they have us all sitting there on the set in the chairs that the cops sit in, waiting for Justin to brief us before the shift starts. And that's the scene. And as we're waiting for the assistant director, the AD, to come and tell us how the scene is going to go, I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, I remember Van's advice. And I thought, wow, this is exactly the situation that he was referring to. There's a bunch of people, and the AD comes and she starts telling us all how it's going to go, how the scene is going to work. Okay, Justin's going to come in there and he's going to stand there and he's going to, do this speech to you guys. And then when he finishes, she was basically choreographing getting 40 people out of this small little area without it looking awkward on camera. So she's saying, okay, so you guys, you go that way, and you 3 people go out that way, and you 4 people, you just stay in your seats and kind of, pretend you're talking amongst yourselves, and then you guys. And it was this whole big rigmarole. But she kept saying, okay, everybody got that? And so, sure enough, the first time she goes through it and she says, everybody got that? And I said, yep, got it. And everybody on the set, this is, our primal fear. I'm going to be singled out. This is, I think, why we have this urge to stay silent in a situation like this. It's so silly because nothing terrible is going to happen if you answer verbally, but it's such a universal human thing. So I say, yeah, I got it. And everybody turns to look and nothing terrible happens. But all of a sudden, I've been noticed. And so, she's chit-chatting and talking with the crew, and then she comes back and, we run through the thing and we do a rehearsal. And a few times this went on where the AD, the assistant director, is saying, okay, let's change this to this. Okay, you got that? And I said, yep, got it. And after the first couple of times, then suddenly the ice has been broken. And a few other people kind of tentatively answered out loud as well. And part of it is that, this is a bunch of actors on an A-list show. The Leftovers was a very critically acclaimed show. And people are a little bit unsure of, they don't want to step on anyone's toes. But regardless of whatever situation you're in, if it's a work meeting or anything, if you're the one that speaks up, all of a sudden you have claimed your place in whatever situation is. You're basically subconsciously saying, I'm here, I'm present, I'm equal. And so as this morning went on with this, you do the scene over and over again, I'm answering. And at some point I start realizing that the AD is just automatically looking at me when she's telling this group of people what needs to be done. Okay, got that? And she's looking at me like, you're in charge, basically. Not saying that, but this is what happens when you are the one who is brave enough. And it sounds stupid to say brave because all you're doing is answering out loud, right? No big deal. But so why don't we all do it? I eat this shit up, I'm fascinated by this stuff. So just to wrap up this story, because I realize I'm kind of rambling here. This was just like really cemented this in my mind, how subtle and yet how just really profound an effect being the one that answers out loud, what it can do for you. And so we do the scene a couple of times, and the AD is, I have my little bit with Justin, and they had me do it a couple of times. I bring him this karaoke machine. I had this business where I had to plug it in. I'm like bending down to reach behind Justin Theroux's ass to plug in this machine. And it can be a little bit nerve-wracking to be on a set with, an A-list actor like that. Of course, it's human nature to think, oh, I hope I hope they like me, that kind of thing. But I kind of decided once I saw the response of just what it did, like everybody on the set suddenly was treating me differently. I'm not explaining this very well, but just try this in your life. Give it a shot, okay? But the icing on the cake was, I have one line, okay? I have one line. I hand Justin through this microphone and I say, "You're on." And so all of a sudden, the AD comes over and she's telling me, "Oh, you're doing a really good job. You think maybe you could come back tomorrow because we have another scene. I wouldn't mind putting you in." And I'm just chit chatting with her, and then out comes the director, who was Mimi Leader, who is A-list Hollywood director. The director on a film or TV set is usually just hidden away somewhere in what's called Video Village. So they got all the monitors and they can see what the camera sees, and they're just watching everything on camera, because on a on-camera production, all that matters is what the camera sees. And so they communicate to the AD and tell them, what changes to make. So Mimi Leader comes out and she's standing there, and I'm standing there with Justin, and the three of us are just having a little discussion about my one line. And I was, saying, am I doing it, too much this or too much that, or I forget what we were talking about. But I'm standing there with Mimi Leader and Justin Theroux discussing how my one line should be delivered. And I know that wouldn't have happened if I had kept my mouth shut and been quiet and, didn't want to step on anyone's toes. And so they have me do it again. And this was my favorite part as an actor. I had talked to Justin about, because I hadn't watched every episode of this show. I'd never watched this show when I got cast on it. And so I said to him, I'm bringing you this karaoke machine. And I had briefly watched some clips of the show from previous seasons, and there was a scene of him singing karaoke. And I was asking him if this had anything to do with that. And he was saying, "Oh, no, that was another scene. I was dead," or whatever. It's a kind of wacky show. And so we go to do the scene again, and I bring him the karaoke machine, and I plug it in, and I hand him the mic. And it was one of those moments where like time just slows down because you're just in the zone. And I hand him the mic, and I see he's looking at the mic. And in that quarter of a second, it's clear that he, and I could be totally imagining this, but in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, he's thinking back to the time he sang karaoke when he was dead, and he looked at me, and we just had this very brief eye contact moment, and then he took the microphone away from me. But it was one of those moments in acting, where you just connect with your scene partner. And I don't know. I'm not trying to make this my claim to fame or anything. It was a half day's work. I was grateful to get it. My scene got cut. I mean, I haven't even seen that episode, but I had some friends that had watched it and said, "Oh, we didn't see you bring him a karaoke machine." You do see me basically as an extra in the background. But the point is, all morning long, I made every effort to answer aloud whenever someone addressed the group. And whenever someone said anything out loud to me, I would answer out loud clearly. And that suddenly made me like 100% present to them. And that is just priceless. And, I have a full-time job now that is a remote job. Everybody in the company is remote. And we're on Zoom meetings every Friday. We have our team meeting. And it happened again this Friday. There's 17 people on this meeting, and the CEO says something to the entire group, and nobody says a word. And it'll be like, okay, you guys want to play some trivia? Or, they try to make the Friday meeting fun or whatever. It literally was like she said, oh, you guys want to play a game? And it took me a second, but I was like, sure. So I just answered for the entire group. So now suddenly there's a change in the air. And I feel like I'm not explaining this well at all. It's been a long weekend. I'm not 100% today, but the point of all of this is when you find yourself in a group situation and somebody says, good morning, class, or whatever, be the one that is there and says, I'm here, I'm equal. And this is another thing, it can be very difficult in situations to feel like you're equal to everybody. I know that I struggled with this, particularly when I was younger. But I decided at some point, I don't know, probably in my 40s, I'm 53 now, so I just don't give a fuck about anybody's feelings anymore. But I decided if somebody has to pee and brush their teeth in the morning when they wake up the same as me, then we're equals. End of story. And if that could help somebody out there, just think of it that way. Because that basically includes the entire human race. So no one is above you. So whatever situation you're in, claim your place. Be the one that answers verbally, because then all of a sudden you're the one in charge. And I'm not saying that gives you any special privilege. I'm just saying from an energetic standpoint and from a subconscious standpoint, all of a sudden you're the one that was brave enough to say something out loud, to be heard, to claim your place. And I really hope I'm making some kind of sense here. If you can relate to any of this, drop it in the comments. I would love to hear other people's experiences with this. Anyway, thanks for sticking around. If you made it to the end, I really appreciate it, guys. And I will see you in the next video.